This is Rugby Roundup. Coming up, Moseley break their duck, Bees lose a thriller, and Stourbridge inch closer to safety. Hello and welcome to Brian Dick's Rugby Roundup. I'm joined by Brian Dick in the studio. Hi Brian.
Hi Chrissy.
Well, first let's start with Moseley. They notched up their first win of the playoff campaign at Rotherham. How did they do it, Brian?
Well, they nearly didn't do it. It was an extremely nervy afternoon. They went 23-0 up inside as many minutes. Rotherham turned up. They didn't seem hugely motivated for the whole thing. But then when Rotherham got a try, even at 23-5, Moseley just went within themselves.
Yeah, it was a great win. Well, last week we talked about that meeting. That must have helped fire them up then.
Well, I think so. I think Moseley's mindset was always going to be very focused. I think probably the biggest factor was the fact Rotherham didn't need to win, and if anything, we've had two great games this weekend, and I think if they sum up anything, it's the fact that rugby is played as much in the mind as it is on a field.
So, what kind of strategy would you say they adopted during the match?
Well, Rotherham were extremely open. You could tell they had no tension in their game, and they were flinging it from corner to corner. Moseley, when it all stemmed from their defence. When the defence was up and they were putting big hits in and controlling that gain line, they got the turnover ball that enabled Tristan Roberts to make a lot of yards in open field, and he set up a couple of the tries, which was really pleasing to see from his point of view. And then at the end of the game, once they'd had their nervous 40 minutes, they closed it down. The forwards got on top really. Rotherham again didn't really need to win, so they possibly weren't as passionate as they might have been. And once the Moseley forwards got on top, they scored two tries and closed the game out brilliantly. And the last 5 minutes, they weren't camped on their own line, they were camped on Rotherham's line, just controlling the balls. I mean, that is the textbook way to see out a match.
Well, after the game you spoke to Ian Smith, didn't you? Let's hear what he had to say.
At the end of it, I think we started brightly. We allowed Rotherham too many ins, really, too many simple errors. Allowed them to play a little bit. We always knew they were going to play. They're a relaxed team and that they've easily qualified. So a very dangerous team mentally for us. We knew we had to defend well, which we did, especially at the start of the game, and created turnovers and possession, scored some good points. But then we relaxed a little bit and allowed them to play.
Are you worried about where the side went in those 20 minutes that gave them a chance to get back into it?
No, a little bit, because it's key personnel. It's the same sort of personnel making the same errors, really, which is a problem we're trying to manage, but it's always difficult. But we highlight these things and take people aside, but it's not a team issue. It's one or two crucial people in crucial positions.
Well, let's now have a look at the table. What did the weekend's matches mean?
Well, what we've got now is we've got Birmingham are on the bottom with Moseley have moved off out of that relegation place. I suppose that most people would look at it and say that Birmingham are now favourites for the drop. But Ian Smith's spoken there about being relieved. He shouldn't be too relieved, because if Moseley lose to Coventry on Saturday, which is more than possible, they will be right back in it. And that encounter that we've been talking about, that Moseley Bees showdown on the last game of the season with the loser to go down, that would be a fearsome prospect for Moseley, bearing in mind the mental punishment they've taken over the last few weeks.
Well, you spoke about Bees there, and they played Coventry at the weekend. Very disappointing. Tell us about that match.
It was an absolute classic. It was the best game I've seen for some time. I've been moaning about the quality of the rugby that's been on show in the Championship and indeed the Premiership this season. But this was absolutely brilliant. The defences were nowhere. I mean, there were guys breaking tackles, other guys falling off tackles. It was a really open game. Absolutely, it was thrilling stuff. But Bees will be kicking themselves. It's quite strange that after 10 tries, 5 for each side, it should come down to the one guy who kicked the penalty. Bees will be absolutely distraught at losing this match, because their destiny is now out of their hands. Coventry, they've got a bit of belief now, and belief's a pretty intoxicating thing at this time of the season.
They did pick up a couple of bonus points, didn't they?
They did, that's right. And what they are now is they're 1 point behind Moseley, 2 points behind Coventry, albeit having played a game more. What is starting to look really big now is the 2 points they were docked for this registration irregularity earlier in the season, and we'll hear from Simon Hunt in a minute. As you say, they did get 2 bonus points, but from listening to Simon, who incidentally had an outstanding game, you wouldn't have guessed it. You'd have think they'd have just been absolutely thraped when that wasn't the case.
Well, let's hear what Simon had to say.
It was a game we should have should have won, and I think we let ourselves down a little bit with a few silly mistakes here and there, which, if over a season you're together as a squad, you kind of, they're the little things that, make a good team a great team, and unfortunately we haven't had that time together, so it's been a bit of a steep learning curve, but we've still got a game left, so hopefully we can put it right for the last game.
Well, that was the voice of Simon Hunt. They've still clearly got a lot of work to do, but in National 1, Stourbridge are moving closer to safety. What was that match like? Well,
they won 38-22 against a team that had put 71 points on them the last time they played. So they're virtually there. Neil Mitchell will tell us in a minute that they're not over the line yet. And technically they're not. They do need another point. They've got 2 games left, and it's inconceivable to me that they won't get those last 2 points. And obviously, all letters of complaint are welcome from Stoughton Park when they don't get them and they're relegated, and it's all my fault. But yeah, I mean, they can afford to play open rugby now. If they don't win those 2 games, which they possibly arguably should anyway, they'll get a bonus point for scoring 4 tries or for coming closer than 7. So they're virtually over the line. Yeah.
Thanks, Brian, for that. Now let's hear the thoughts of Neil Mitchell.
But I won't be complacent. This is, as you know, it's my 6th year at Stourbridge. All but 1 year, we've always been in a bit of a dogfight or a relegation battle because, as you know, 3 go down from this league. This has been probably the closest call with so many teams in the mix. But you just can't take anything for granted. This is freak time results. Anything can happen. Newbury against Tyndale next week, you're not going to say they're going to get a victory there. But you can't take anything for granted. You never know. I mean, we really prepared well for Saturday. Everything we did, I think, was right, and which helped towards the victory.
Well, thanks for watching. That's all we've got time for today. We'll be back next week for a full roundup of the Midlands rugby news and also details on Brian Dick's live web chats. Bye for now.